I am worried about the precedent that healthcare reform legislation, as it is developing through the Senate, is going to have for other things, including, most importantly, in my opinion, financial reform. Someone who shares that concern is Robert Borosage. He is the co-director for Campaign for America's Future, and he's written Curbing Big Banks, Draw the Damn Line. And I love that title already. Robert, welcome back to the Young Turks.
How are you?
I'm great, except for what's happening in the Senate. So tell us why you're worried that what happened in healthcare reform might happen in financial reform.
Well, all of the pieces are set up to do a horrible sequel that will be even more ruinous than the first one. We've got a relatively weak reform program that came through the Senate after the lobbies got through it. It didn't have any one Republican vote for it through the House. Not one Republican voted for it. It's now headed to the Senate. The administration is signaling that there's going to be a bipartisan process in the Senate, and they're going to wait to see how that plays itself out. And you've already got New Dems trying to find ways to weaken the Consumer Financial Protection Agency. You've got Republicans saying they don't really think that we ought to have a strong independent agency, and they're opposed to it completely. And it looks like we could do a replay where Democrats spend months trying to find a Republican to pretend that it's bipartisan, and we end up with giving the lobbies a backroom ticket to weaken it and weaken it and weaken it.
So, Bob, let me stop you there. When I see that, I think, well, this is a farce, right? Because at this point, if the Obama administration doesn't realize they're not going to get any Republican votes, they're beyond dense. And I know they're not that stupid. So what's the real game that's being played here?
Well, I think they believe, needless to say, we have to have financial regulation. I think they believe that they can get some Republicans to sign on. I think they're prepared to fight for the Consumer Financial Protection Agency. But the whole theory of this administration, and I think the sense of that the president has of himself, is that he's the person who brings people together, and so they haven't shown any sign of abandoning that strategy.
Yeah, I don't believe them. I got to be honest with you. In the beginning, I absolutely believed them, and I thought, good for him for trying, and I think that he should have taken that a while, and he did. He took it a long distance. Then he went on and on and on against the face of all evidence. And I don't think it's some sort of
all the way through the fall.
Yeah, I don't think it's some sort of hopeful naivete anymore, or even you say it's not naive. Let's say it's idealism, etc. No, it looks like they're using people like whether they're Susan Collins, Olympia Snowe, or Joe Lieberman and Ben Nelson to do what they actually want to do. They're using them as cover. In healthcare reform, they never wanted the public option, and they use Lieberman as an excuse. They never fought for the public option. And in financial,
fighting for it and wanting it's a different thing. I think there's a different thing that I was in a room with an administration figure the other day, and he said, "Well, look, we'll let the bipartisan process play itself out, and we hope we get a good bill out of the Senate. And if we don't get a good bill, then we may have to weigh in very heavily. But of course, we have a bigger stake in getting a bill than many people in this room."
No,
and I think that's their bottom line. Their bottom line is, any financial reform, like any healthcare reform that you pass at this point, will be the biggest financial reform since the 30s, or the biggest healthcare reform since Medicare. So that a bill is important to them much more than whether it has a public option or whether it has, a real ban on derivatives or kind of fundamental change on the financial side.
Now, I largely agree with that, but I began to say I question whether that's even true. Because they claim that they're ineffectual and impotent and can't do anything about these senators, and they can't put any kind of pressure on them. They don't know how to play politics at all. They're just flummoxed by the whole thing. Except when Byron Dorgan did an amendment saying, "Hey, why don't we import drugs into the country?" All of a sudden, they were lions, and they came down and cracked some skulls and turned 9 or 10 votes around, and Dorgan lost. That's funny how they can be strong when they're protecting corporations.
Well, that was, of course, an agreement the president made, or Rahm Emanuel made, or whomever, early on with the drug companies, which was
to protect the drug companies, right?
But I think the real test is we're going to the Senate's not going to take up financial reform until January. We have a public that is rightfully furious at the way this bailout's gone, with the bankers now about to pay themselves $1 million bonuses, and unemployment still in double digits and rising in many places in the country. And the president has every good reason, or the Senate leader, it doesn't have to wait on the president, to just draw a line that says, this is what we're going to do. Rally 52 Democrats behind it, a majority of the Senate representing about 80% of the country. Frame it in moral terms. Are you going to protect consumers, or are you going to stand with the banks? Are you going to, ban the banks that are too big to fail, or are you going to risk bringing the whole system down again?
Bob,
3 or 4 basic principles, and then let's have the fight. I think you get a better shot at bipartisanship by drawing a line early and being strong about it, particularly as to the banks where people are so furious.
I agree with you 100%. And I read your article, and I thought I loved it. And every time you said draw the damn line, I agreed with you. But it's not just the rhetoric that I loved. I like the politics behind it. Say, look, you tell me, Republicans, you tell me, Joe Lieberman, are you going to stand with the banks? And if you do that, that doesn't hurt you politically, that hurts them politically, right? So I think you're exactly right on that. But again, we run into the same problem of, I don't think they want to do that. I don't think the Obama administration wants it. In the House, they watered down, every single proposal they sent was to water down, weaken, or kill more reform in the bill. I mean, Geithner never came up and said, hey, Barney Frank, really, man, I'd just love to add another provision here that I think could help and be tighter on the banks. No, he came out and said, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Let's put another loophole in there. So, I mean, when you look at that, Bob, you got to say they don't want it.
Well, I think then it's up to the Senate leadership. Here's the problem. There's a reality here, which is at this point, Democrats headed into these by-elections are going to get killed. And they're going to get killed partly because we have double-digit unemployment, and partly because we've put hundreds of billions of dollars into the banks that are now paying themselves $1 million bonuses. And Democrats at this point are on the wrong side of which side are you on these questions. And they've got to get on the right side of this. Even if the president's not pushing, Harry Reid should push. The Democrats should do it themselves, because I'll tell you, we're going to have a debacle next fall if we don't get this on the right side of this.
So that brings us to our final question. And we're talking to Bob Borosage. He's co-director of Campaign for America's Future, one of the largest progressive groups in the country. Do they get it? That's the question. Because now you see polls, they got to be able to read the polls like I can, like all of us can, that says that the bottom's dropping out of their Democratic voters. One poll says without a public option, 30% don't vote in 2010. Another poll says they're already so dispirited, 40% are not planning to show up to vote in 2010. And then you got other polls saying now the Democratic Party is associated with Wall Street and the bankers and protecting them. What is it going to take for the Senate Democrats and for the Obama administration to understand that they're playing the politics of this disastrously wrong?
Well, I think the one good sign is that Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, got this early. She started screaming about jobs and demanding action on financial reform very early, and she understands it quite thoroughly. Whether she can convince her colleagues, and then having convinced them, I think that the polls are pretty clear. The politics is pretty clear. The spanner in the joint, if you will, is the banking lobby is the most powerful lobby and gives the most money, particularly to Democrats, of any lobby in the country.
So that's where the rub is.
Yeah.
And of course, the calculus is that Rahm Emanuel thinks, well, if we take their money and the Republicans don't get it, then we win easy. But I think he's playing an old game, and that we're onto it. The American people's onto it. And like in the old days, TV protected them because TV would never tell the truth. When's the last time you saw someone on television saying, oh, yeah, Lieberman took the money from the financial industry, and that's why he's selling out to them? Do you ever see an anchor or a host saying that? Now there's a couple of guys on MSNBC, but all of the online community says it, and that's where people get their news now. Rahm Emanuel thinks, oh, they'll never catch on to us, but he's already late. We already caught him.
Yeah, well, the world is changing. There's no question of that. And I do think, I think that because of where the people are, I think there's a decent chance we've got a shot at getting financial reform. The bill they passed the House is a lot stronger than the banking community ever imagined.
Well,
and
well, the banking community
they
imagined
were
they'd never
shocked
get touched.
that they were, they set up Melissa Bean to go in and essentially gut the operation by stripping out half of the accountability mechanisms for banks, and she got beat, and they were shocked when she got beat.
All right, you know what? I keep saying last question, but one more question, Bob. Melissa Bean has done as much damage to financial reform as anyone in Congress, and she's a so-called Democrat. You know, some of the most successful lobbies in the country, whether it's the NRA or APAC or whoever else it might be, they make examples out of people. And they say, all right, if you cross us, we come to get you, and then everybody gets scared. Is there any movement on the progressive side to say, let's make an example out of Melissa Bean? If you're going to sell out to the banks this much.
There's definitely movement on the progressive side. On Melissa Bean, I think there's going to be an attempt to target 2 or 3 people that on these big votes have gone south and have gone with the lobbies and against the reforms we need, and even against their own president. I think you're going to see some real action both in 2010 and 2012 where progressives send a message to folks.
No, I would love that. I'm looking forward to that message. All right, so Bob Borosage from Campaign for America's Future, as always, great having you here. We really appreciate it.
Be of cheer. Take care.
All right, you too. We'll be right back. Young Turks.